Hello, everybody. Welcome back to this year tropical update for October 7th. We're currently watching three hurricanes in an area of interest over the Atlantic Ocean. The only thing we are going to talk about this video is Major Hurricane Milton, which is rapidly intensifying over the Gulf of Mexico, making its way near the Yucatan, then up into Florida, where it will cause devastating, life threatening, and extreme impacts. And I do not use any of those words lightly. Let's be extremely clear with this system. It's going to be devastating. It is rapidly strengthening. It does have a few hurdles it may have to cross, but it does not matter. That's just the fact, the matter of the fact of the situation at this point in time. We have a rapidly strengthening 150-mile-an-hour hurricane, maximum possible intensity given the waters ahead of it, 195 miles an hour. Is that going to happen? No. Is 160, 170 going to happen? Maybe. 170 could happen. I mean, this storm is rapidly intensifying, extreme impacts likely to the Florida Gulf Coast. Let's begin. Here's the latest satellite image with the storm. The hurricane hunters in the aircraft or inside the storm right now have seen a rapidly increasing in strength storm. I mean, it's dropping like a couple millibars every hour. Somebody said on the internet, one of the meteorologists, and I'll reference a few. Usually, I don't usually keep this straight to the facts, but one of the meteorologists online said that 3% of all the atmosphere, that's from the ocean all the way up to the top, 3% of that atmosphere has disappeared within 3 hours because of how strong this system is. That is insane. 3% of all of the air above you. Think about how much air is there. Milton got rid of 3% of that within a matter of 3 hours. So absolutely outrageous, very strong Milton. As I mentioned, winds of 150, pressure down to 940. This thing is dropping its pressure like it's nobody's business. And as a result of that, we do have a Category 4 major hurricane making its way towards the Yucatan. Will it make landfall? Probably not in the Yucatan. So that's the good news there. But it will likely maybe be stronger there Tuesday morning than it will be when it makes its way to Florida. We'll talk about that here in a second. Um, but the strength when it hits Florida, frankly, does not matter. If it's a category 2, okay, fine. If it's a category 5, okay, fine. Same impacts regardless. Extreme storm surge due to the same goal of attack. It's heading in directly perpendicular to the coastline, which means basically everywhere Tampa Bay and to the south, let's say Naples, basically to Naples, is going to have extreme storm surge. We'll talk about that in a second, up to 12 feet. Winds, as I mentioned, category 5, going to happen. Tornadoes, going to happen. Flooding, also going to happen. We're looking at isolated amounts over a foot in the Florida Peninsula. So let's begin with some more track information here. The exact landfall point does not matter, as with the exact strength. This is from another meteorologist on Twitter. The stronger it gets, the further north it should go. So that's kind of what we're thinking at this point. So if we have a stronger north of Tampa, it'll actually be a stronger storm, which will be devastating for Tampa Bay if it makes landfall north of Tampa Bay. The good news is about where this red dot is where most people are most meteorologists, most models are having the landfall point at just south of Tampa Bay, north of Fort Myers, well north of Fort Myers, north of Charlotte Harbor, I think is what that next bay is. And so that's what we're looking at this point in time, probably a Cat 3 or 4 landfall. Again, this thing will, I mean, it's a few miles an hour away from being a Category 5. When I was preparing this video earlier today, in Europe, earlier today, it was going to be a Cat 2, and then the National Hurricane Center issues an update Cat 4 or Cat 3, and then we're up to Cat 4, and this just keeps on going. And this is where we're at this point in time. Could make landfall further to the south. Good news is it'll be a bit strong, a little bit weaker, but it'll likely be bigger in terms of area. Think something more like Helene and its landfall. A lot of similarities with that, but also a lot of differences between those storms. Try not to draw comparisons even to this or something like Michael, also a very intense October hurricane making landfall in Florida. That made landfall further to the north. We're looking somewhere further to the south. The latest intensity guidance, again, initiates the storm at a Category 3, realizing right now we are at a high-end Cat 4, basically where 130 would be, between 120 and 140. So 130 is where we're at right now. It's already above most models. So it's almost guaranteed that this system becomes a Category 5 major hurricane either later today or tomorrow. Rainfall is going to be a major concern with this system, especially along landfall points and north of the center of the system. And storm surge will also be a major concern. I mean, as I mentioned, and I hope is extremely clear, 8 to 12 feet possible from Anklet River further to the south. And again, the south side is really where we're watching out, 5 to 10 from Englewood down to Bonita Beach, 4 to 7 from Bonita Beach down to Turkowski, and that includes Naples and Marco Island in that area, and then 2 to 4 feet down as we head throughout the Everglades, and then along the Keys, 1 to 3 feet. We're also looking at 3 to 5 feet in the Yucatan Peninsula over there, of course, tapering off further to the north. The reason that this is higher to the north, as far north as Yankeetown right now, 5 to 10, is because of a potential further north landfall point. Expect this graphic to become more refined with time as we approach landfall. Tropical storm force winds could begin as early as Wednesday morning over portions of Florida. This is the earliest reasonable, not the most likely time of arrival. Most likely time of arrival offset maybe 12 hours or so. Tuesday evening is the beginning of effects to the far Keys. Think Key West at the earliest, so maybe overnight Tuesday into Wednesday for that one. But in the near term, later today into tomorrow, the extreme northern Yucatan Peninsula is our main area of concern with this system. Another impact with this will be tornadoes. On Tuesday, we're looking at a low risk of tornadoes over the southwestern and western Florida areas, and then all of southern Florida is likely to experience tornadoes, at least at points throughout Florida on Wednesday, likely into Thursday as well. Again, we have a day or two. Again, we have all day today, Monday. We have all day tomorrow, Tuesday. But by the time we get to Tuesday evening, we will likely have to be ready, either done or evacuated to a safe position at that point in time. As the National Hurricane Center is stressing with this system, because likely due to the nature of this system, the strength of the angle of attack, a number of other things, this is likely to be the largest Florida hurricane evacuation since Hurricane Irma. And as a result of that, we will need to monitor it very carefully. If you're issued an evacuation, get out. There's going to be a lot of traffic, I'm sure. But remember, you don't have to travel all the way into Georgia to be safe from the storm. You just have to travel far enough inland. Okay. So, if you're in Naples, going to Miami would probably be sufficient. There's nothing between Naples and Miami. If you went halfway across the peninsula, that would probably be fine too. If you're in Fort Myers, go to Lake Okeechobee for the weekend. Something more towards that extent, rather than if you're in Naples, go to Atlanta. That's frankly stupid with this storm. Yeah, it's still going to be a hurricane. Yeah, it's still going to be windy and rainy and all of those things if you stay in Florida. But the main concern with this system, as with any tropical system, is going to be that storm surge, especially along the Florida Gulf Coast. I'm talking basically everywhere where that storm surge watch is issued. So Flamingo to the Suwannee River, including Charlotte Harbor and Tampa Bay. We'll be back with more information tomorrow on this system. If I'm able to, I should be able to issue another update tomorrow. Again, very likely going to be a Category 4 hurricane still, at least. Pending eyewall replacement cycles, one thing I did want to mention was the intensity guidance on this system, and then I'll get into the records here. The intensity with the system could fluctuate a little bit as it approaches the Florida coast. Due to its shear coming into itself and weakening it a little bit. A little bit of dry air may also get into the system and begin to weaken it down a little bit, which is good. Or also with large, intense hurricanes like this, or just intense hurricanes in general, we get things called eyewall replacement cycles. That means that the eyewall basically replaces itself, kind of like think of it as a snake shedding its skin. It's not like the snake is weaker. It's weaker for that little bit of time where it's replacing its skin, but once it is, it's actually bigger and stronger. Same exact thing with this hurricane. It's bigger and stronger after the cycle has completed, but while it's being completed, It's a little bit weaker, but it's still a formidable hurricane. So that's worth noting. Lots of records associated with Milton, mainly due to its occurrence with the other tropical cyclones ongoing right now. Very odd for this time of year. Very likely other records to be set by Milton here in the future. We'll pop back on this screen tomorrow if this system is in fact a record-setting hurricane in terms of its intensity. That's all for now, Chris Hickson of Weather Media.